Now, I've never really been the biggest fan of the draw everyday saying, mainly because I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on artists who simply can't afford to do so, myself included. However, I do understand the benefits of showing up consistently to your creative practice. That's why month-long challenges like Mermay, Inktober', and Huevember are extremely popular in the arts community. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Oge, also known online as Neddy, and over the past few months, I've been documenting my journey of trying to reignite my creative spark. So this year, I decided to participate in a daily drawing challenge to see if it could actually help me to build a consistent habit of creating again. But unfortunately, I failed terribly. Now, as embarrassing as it is to admit that I only made it 6 days into the challenge, yes, just 6 days, I actually learned quite a lot from the experience. So today, I've decided to make a little video sharing my overall experience attempting a daily drawing challenge, how it can be beneficial, what I learned from attempting this challenge, and how I plan to apply those lessons to build a healthier, more intentional and sustainable art practice moving forward. As you all know, there are multiple daily drawing challenges in the art community, but the challenge that I will be specifically talking about in this video is none other than Inktober. Now, I've actually participated in Inktober back in 2017. That was my very first time attempting any daily drawing challenge, and even though it cost me multiple sleepless nights and drawing in between classes, I somehow managed to complete all 31 days. For anyone unfamiliar, Inktober is a month-long challenge created by artist Jake Parker, where you make one ink drawing every day throughout the month of October, hence the name Inktober. Over the years, the challenge has grown and evolved with different artists adding their own spin to it. But the main idea tends to remain the same, to encourage artists to show up every day and draw. Now, I'll come clean and admit right away that I actually wasn't planning on finishing this challenge. In fact, I knew right away from the start that I won't be able to actually finish simply because I had a lot of other life responsibilities happening later in the month. But I went into it with an open mind and was determined to make it as far as I could and only call it quits when I wasn't able to keep up. Sadly, it only took 6 days before that happened. However, during these few days, one of the biggest things I learned is the benefits in limitations. I used to hate the idea of having limits and constraints and thought that being able to do anything and everything was the ultimate form of creative freedom. But after going through several bouts of art block, I've learned that having endless possibilities can be so overwhelming, especially when you're trying to get back into the flow of creating. That's why an art challenge like Inktober can be helpful, since it already makes some of those daunting decisions for you, like the medium, colors, and prompts. Now, of course, you don't have to stick to every single rule. For example, in my case, I knew that attempting the challenge traditionally would add a lot more pressure on me since I'm not as confident working directly with ink. So I decided to stick to only working on my iPad if I actually wanted a shot at staying consistent. But other than that, I decided to lean into the limitation of working only in black and white. And honestly, not having to worry about colors was actually really freeing. Don't get me wrong, I love colors and painting vibrant illustrations. I mean, if you're familiar with my work, you already know this. But I sometimes get stuck when it comes to choosing what colors work best for an illustration. For example, while working on the first prompt, I was a bit conflicted on whether I wanted to add pops of colors consistently throughout the challenge. But that very minor and frankly speaking unnecessary choice, as silly as it sounds, got me extremely frustrated just because I couldn't make up my mind. That's when I made the decision to stick to only using black for the rest of the challenge. And having one less thing to worry about allowed me to focus more on the overall idea, composition, and line quality. Another thing that really helped me during Inktober was following a prompt list. Every year, tons of artists create and share their own list. But this year, I decided to stick with the one from the official Inktober account. So here's a silly confession. I used to think that as an artist, I always had to come up with my ideas completely on my own. And if it wasn't some original eureka concept that I thought about in the shower from scratch, then somehow it didn't count as mine. Which, I know, saying that out loud now sounds very silly. Having to come up with new ideas every single day is honestly one of the hardest parts of daily drawing challenges. That's why a lot of us struggle with that fear of facing the blank page. Most times, it truly has nothing to do with skill, but sometimes just not knowing what to draw. So having a dedicated prompt list as a starting point made a huge difference. It gave me a sense of direction and served as a foundation to start, but still gave me enough room to make the idea my own without having to sit there for hours thinking of what to draw. Like Weave, the prompt for day 2, which has a few different meanings, and it inspired me to create a character with fairies weaving extensions into her hair, which isn't something I typically would have come up with on my own, but was still extremely fun to create. When it comes to the technical benefits of drawing every day, I began to notice a big improvement in my line quality within the first 3 days of the challenge. I started to feel a lot more confident with my brushstrokes, so I decided to challenge myself and create something a bit more ambitious, which ended up being one of my favorite from the whole challenge. I've always loved narrative illustrations, but for some reason, I don't make enough of them. So I use this as a chance to push myself and create a piece that focused primarily on storytelling. And since I didn't have to worry about painting or rendering a full illustration, it allowed me to channel all my focus to coming up with an interesting narrative and composition for the piece. Once again, another benefit of having limitations. The prompt for the day was crown, and I created an illustration of a fairy carrying this crown over to a beautiful woman dressed in high esteemed garments. At first glance, it looks like a sweet and magical moment, but if you look closer, you'll notice something a little unsettling about the crown. I'm gonna leave the story open to interpretation, but I do have my own take on it. And honestly, I had so much fun adding little details to hint at the story. Feel free to share what you think is happening. I'd love to hear your interpretations. One thing I discovered during the challenge was how powerful it can be to set specific goals for each piece you make. My main goal for Inktober was to experiment with different digital inking techniques. But even within that, every single artwork had its own sub-goal for what I wanted to achieve. Day 1 was the only time I didn't have a specific goal, and it was simply to get me into the flow of things. But every other day had a very specific focus. On day 2, I experimented with more simple and abstract lines, and day 3 was the complete opposite, creating something more intricate and detailed. As for day 4, I went all in with experimenting and attempted to mimic the traditional ink wash effect digitally, which I think turned out pretty nice. Since the prompt was murky, I also wanted to try something a bit more abstract and focus more on capturing a specific feeling and emotion. Having those mini goals gave me room to experiment and made the repetitive act of drawing every single day a bit more exciting. By the time I got to day 5, that's when I started to struggle. Long story short, things got extremely busy in my personal life, and I suddenly couldn't keep up the same way I had at the start. And honestly, I started feeling guilty. As I mentioned earlier, Even though I knew that I most likely wouldn't finish the challenge, I at least expected to make it a bit longer. But that's another thing that I had to remind myself during this challenge. Life happens, and you have to remember to give yourself grace. The truth is, not everyone can draw every day, and that's okay. Being an artist doesn't mean you have to constantly be producing. Some days you have time and energy to go all out on a detailed piece, and other days you might only have the space for something quick and simple, which is what I decided to do for day 5. My main goal for that day was to create something with a clean and somewhat graphic composition. That way, I could keep it simple and focus specifically on shapes and storytelling. And even though it's not the most elaborate piece I made, I'm still proud of it because I was able to make it work with the amount of time and energy I had. That day reminded me that it's okay to slow down and you don't have to push yourself to the limit every single time you sit down to draw. Sometimes the best thing you can afford to do for your art and for yourself is to take a breath, keep it simple, and just keep going when you can. So by the time day 6 came around, I kind of had a feeling that I was nearing the end of this challenge. But I reminded myself of something very simple. If I was going to have to end this challenge early, then I might as well just have fun. It's so easy to get caught up in challenges like this and turn them into a test of discipline or skill. But honestly, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Most of us began creating simply because it was fun. And somewhere in the middle of trying to build consistency, especially when you're also trying to post each artwork online every single day to boost engagement, we tend to forget the main reason why we create in the first place. So on day 6, I decided to draw something that was fun and simple and just focus a bit on my comfort zone, which is portraits. Because at the end of the day, art doesn't always have to be serious or perfect. Sometimes it's just about playing, exploring, and enjoying the process for what it is. So with only 6 days of attempting Inktober, here are my general takeaways that I'm going to be constantly reminding myself of and incorporating into my creative practice moving forward. Try to create limitations whenever you feel overwhelmed by decision paralysis. Work with prompts even outside of challenges as a starting point for generating ideas. Be intentional with every art you create and set clear personal or technical goals to give it a sense of direction. Treat every artwork as an experiment and a chance to create something new. Never beat yourself up when an artwork doesn't go as planned. It's just one of many more artworks you're going to create. And lastly, always remember to give yourself grace and have fun. Even though I didn't finish the challenge, I'm really proud of everything I was able to create. Not only did it give me a chance to show up, but it also allowed me to experiment with different techniques and styles that I typically wouldn't have because I would have thought it was too different from my usual art. Experimenting helped me discover what I didn't like and what I wanted to incorporate more of into my process. And at the end of it all, I took all the new techniques and lessons that I had learned and created one last piece to celebrate the spooky season and officially say goodbye to the challenge. Even though I technically didn't finish in Inktober, I still think it's very important that we finish what we start, especially when it comes to our art projects. If not, it can easily lead to a very bad habit and a never-ending pile of unfinished whips. If this sounds like you, then there might be a reason why you're finding it difficult to finish your art projects. And I made a whole video talking about that that I'll link right here. If you enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you're gonna enjoy that one as well. So do check it out after this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next video.